Did not mean to play this intro, but here we are. We're not really here for the music anyway. We're here for the baseball talk. It is Guardians of the Future. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for hanging with me on an inconsistent schedule. It's the podcast that will never say die. It might go on vacation, it might go on life support, but it will never die. I am like the cockroach of podcasting. I'm always here, and whether you want me or not. And thankfully, someone wanted to join me, and it was Mike Mahoney to come back in. And I said last time we did this that I try to get this back onto a more, I don't want to call it a normal schedule, but a better rhythm than I've had this year. And I talked last time about how I've just had a lot going on this year from the podcast and personal stuff that it was hard to keep up that schedule. So, but we're back in a better rhythm, and I've got Mike here with me. We're going to talk a lot of Guardians prospect stuff. We'll talk some captains. We'll talk some Major League stuff. We'll talk some Double A stuff. We'll talk some depressing pitching news. We might even talk about an outfield top prospect not named George Valera. Oh, I gave it away. Not named Chase DeLauder. They're the same guy, right? They're the same guy. Can't stay healthy, lots of potential. That's the same guy, right, Mike?
In the abstract, if you think about it. It's
Yeah,
nice to join you again, Justin. It's always a pleasure.
it is. I always love having you on because we talk baseball. Not generations. I think it was more eras ago. It feels like another lifetime in the Lake County press box. There were lots of conversations happening up there that wouldn't have been great to share on a podcast, at least not all of it, and or at least it would have been a not suitable for work podcast. And I do like this making this at least a PG-13 podcast. But I could say we've evolved and grown in the press box over the years, and now our conversations up there are pretty much baseball. Like everything we say up there could, if it got out, it wouldn't hurt anybody. It wouldn't make us look bad for the most
Yeah,
part. Like maybe there's like 1% of things you'd be like, you know what, I wouldn't want everyone to hear that. But I'd say 99.9% of our conversations up there are baseball. Like, we do a lot of trivia up there. We try to stump each other. I got you guys pretty good on Friday. I know Ken got us both good on one of them.
yeah. It's definitely a fun environment, and one of the things that I really love about being able to do the job I do at Lake County, which will be probably the biggest portion of what we talk about today, is Lake County guys that I've seen. Have the privilege of seeing, but yeah, just being able to be in a press box and be around a bunch of people that love baseball, love telling each other about baseball, and love giving people an opportunity to express it. It's truly a great time up there. So I'm always happy to talk with people that are up there, and I would not be embarrassed of the leagues.
Yes, I'm really glad for that. That yeah, anything that it got out now wouldn't be as bad. The reason we had one of the trivia questions, I'll save it to the end. I'll put the question out there. Maybe someone can comment. But there was a gentleman wearing a 00 Cleveland jersey on Friday night at Lake County, and the name was Nobody. And I said, okay, who's the last Cleveland baseball player to wear the number 00? And I'll reveal the answer at the end because nobody in the press box got it. So I
And I've
felt
already
pretty good
forgotten.
about that one. Oh, you already forgot. Okay, we'll see if we can get to the end. But I don't know what it says about me that I remember this person, but definitely says that I have a lot of things in my head that probably don't belong there, and things that should belong there don't. But let's talk some baseball stuff real quick. Let's jump into Parker Messick to start this one off because I feel like we got to start on a positive note because it's been a rough week. Let's be honest. It's been a rough week for Cleveland baseball. But Parker Messick, was the bright shining light. And the best compliment I can give Parker Messick is this. We've seen him grow so much. Like I know we both saw him in Lake County. You saw him plenty, and I feel like he's definitely grown since his time there, which he should. That's what he needs to do. But in his start in Arizona, man, he looked like a guy who had been there, done that before. Like his first inning was a little rocky, and then after that, he just like went out there and pitched like he'd done this 100 times before. I think that's the best compliment you can give a rookie is that you go out there and you pitch your game, and even though he said he was floating on cloud nine the whole game and didn't remember, or it was like an out of body experience. For him to go out there and pitch the way he did, man, that's really impressive, and it really excites me to see what he's going to be going forward because I don't know that I ever projected him to be this like that good. And it's not to say we expect 6 innings of 1 run ball every time out. That's not realistic. But for him to do that in his first start and look like a confident, experienced, and poised as he was, I'm definitely more excited to see what he has going forward.
I agree. And I think the poise and the confidence were two of the big carrying things for Messick when he was at Lake County. Between 23 and 24, I felt that his stuff took a bit of a tick up. I think that observations have borne that out. He was throwing harder in Double A and Triple A this year, or Triple A this year exclusively, and it's been nice seeing him kind of grow as a pitcher, grow into his stuff a bit more. But the poise and the confidence have always been there, and he's needed it. He had a bit of bad luck in Lake County on a number of occasions, and there was also a point in time where I was worried he might not be efficient enough to be an effective starting pitcher. This was not something that would necessarily show up in your stat line scouting, but around 4 to 4.5 walks per nine was about his peak when I remember watching him in high A, and that would vary between start to start. He'd be 3 or 4 walks one start, 1 to 2 the others. But when he kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit and struggled and got into heavy pitch count innings, he did manage to pull himself out of it without lighting the house on fire a majority of the time, save for maybe his second start at the level. So he is a guy that really relies on his pitch ability, and he has the poise and confidence to pitch with his stuff. I think that's huge. I think we've seen the difference with guys like Logan Allen this year at the major league level, just to trust your stuff and know that maybe this is not a good thing to say after yesterday's performance by Mr. Allen, but body of work for the year, having the confidence in your stuff to pitch it in the zone and trust that it's good enough to get the job done is a big deal, and Messick has gotten to that point.
Yeah, it is trusting your stuff a lot. And we talked about this after his spring breakout game, and I said, don't doubt him because I think he has the mental part of this game down. I think he does trust his stuff. I do feel like he's pretty confident what he can do, and he's not afraid to have a little bit of motion out there, which is fun. Like, he was fired up after some double play and some strikeouts. Like, he was fired up, and that's fun to see. I like guys. He's and if you've ever heard Parker speak, which if you listen to Lockdown Guardians, we had Parker on back in March after the spring breakout game. He is extremely humble. I know he's very faith-based and all that, which great for him. And if it's not your thing, that's fine too. It's his thing, and he's not trying to show anybody up. Like, he's not trying to start anything. He literally, I know he told us that the reason he gets fired up out there is because he executes a pitch that he has been working on in a certain situation. And finally, it worked out for him in the game, and he had a chance to use it. Like, that's what gets him fired up, and it's about him seeing the work that he's put in actually show up in the results on the field, and that's what gets him fired up. It has nothing to do with showing anybody up. But I like that. I think that makes it more fun when you see the guys that are fired up out there. Like Ben Lively, was not afraid to be that guy either. I missed the heck out of Ben Lively in this team this year because he was always so interesting in the dugout, but also interesting on the mound. But you're 100% right too on the aspect of efficiency. That's the one thing I've been writing about all year for him, is that he really needs to get to a point where he can be more efficient because, my goodness, like Tanner Vivey, Gavin Williams, Logan Allen, Joey Cantillo, what do they all have in common, Mike? They are not efficient for the most part. At least this year they haven't been. And that's the one thing that Parker had to work on, and he hadn't really ironed all that out at AAA, but they needed a starter anyway. And for him to have probably one of the most efficient starts we've ever seen him have in his Major League debut is even more incredible.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen him work into. I might have to go back and look. I don't remember seeing him pitch into the seventh inning. Now, they were a little bit careful with Parker in his development. He started at Lynchburg. He took forever to get. It felt like he took forever, I should say, to get to high A. And then once he was there for too long. But even in all that time, I don't remember seeing him pitch into the seventh inning, at least not clearly. It could have happened, but this was working deep into the seventh inning. He had a chance to go full seven in his first major league start. That was very impressive to me. The other thing is that I really have to laud the organization for deciding that it was time to let him go and let him go up to the majors and make that start, because it's getting to be clear that he didn't have a whole lot else to prove. And Joey Cantillo, I really am excited for what he could be, but it's also very clear he's not where he needs to be yet in terms of efficiency. And he can grenade your whole week with one outing. And lately, you wouldn't be so concerned if you had more stability in your rotation for that to happen. But with Bybee struggling with his efficiency, with Gavin Williams occasionally letting it go on him too, they were an organizational point where it made a lot of sense to let the younger guy go and see what he can give you. And I'm excited for what he'll do for the remainder of the year. It's at least a reason to tune in every fifth day if you're a little burnt.
Yeah, that is kind of how they're going to have to finish off the rest of the year. I think is that motivation to watch is going to be on the Parker Messicks and the CJ Cafuses, the Kyle Manzardos, and whoever else, I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. Also, can I just say, I love Major League debuts. I've always loved them. A, because, guys like us, we watch these guys come up through the system. So it's like you really have seen them for 3 or 4 years. You really get to kind of know them as players. You hear their stories. You watch them week in and week out. And it almost feels like I don't know, it's like a student or a kid, but it's kind of like that when they go through. You're like so proud. You're like, yes, I loved that I got to watch this guy at Lake County, and now he's in the majors. That's so fun because everybody else gets to see the things that you enjoyed about watching him. And I also love watching the parents too, because
Yeah.
you could every time the broadcast goes to the parents, you could see that they are literally hanging on every pitch. They are living and dying. It's like a postseason game for them. Like what we feel in the Guardians in the postseason, they are living and dying in every pitch with Parker Messick. So I thought that was super fun to watch and just see the family's reactions and emotions and all the things they went through that day with him. And probably jet lag too, getting from Florida to Arizona
Yeah.
in 24 hours notice.
Yeah, that's tough. My friends and family have learned to maybe temper their expectations when I get excited about a guy. The first time I rallied the troops to go watch a debut was the Hunter Gaddis debut, and that was not the debut you wanted Hunter
But
Gaddis to
I
have.
think you were right. And long term, he's been a valuable member of that bullpen.
No, I thought he was going to be a good reliever at the time of that debut, but I also still believed he could be a starter, and very quickly got a definitive maybe not definitive no. Let's just call it what it was.
Yeah.
The home run parade was not pleasant.
But hey, you know what? The Guardians also thought there was a chance he could be a starter too, and they also had to quickly recognize that the bullpen was the best way. So even they didn't get it right. How can they expect us to get it right if they don't get it right? You know what I mean? These we like to think that we're good at this and we watch enough baseball, but at the end we're two guys who watch baseball and get paid to watch it, but we also are not working for a team for a reason.
There's caveat with all of this, everyone. We're
Oh
just
yeah,
like it. We don't have a ton of special insights. Anything that we're trying to glean, we're working off the same platform we are.
yeah, we're just having fun and just talking about what our eyes have seen and what we've read and the data that we're aware of. Let's move on to another guy, John Means, another left-hander. We're going to talk about a lot of left-handed pitchers today. Ironically, that's been a weird development for the
It's
system
kind
too.
of
Is there's
all
so
Lake
many.
County is anymore. Their whole rotation's left-handed pitchers, with the exception of I guess they sort of piggybacked Alonzo Richardson today, but that was not intended.
Yeah, I mean you have Sean Matson who is
Yeah, he's
right-handed
he's
who
been
is
piggybacking too.
yeah. So but yeah, it was Josh Hartle. He's gone. It's still Michael Kennedy. It's still Tugboat. And John Means has been a part of the rotation twice now through. I have not been in person to any of John Means' starts. So what I've gleaned from John Means is what I've watched, what I've read, what you've said. But I have to say, like the little bit I've heard and I've seen, I'm pretty happy about. I don't know if this is going to be, it's not going to be for 2025 because if they don't, if they're not then buried yet, they've got one foot in the grave. So I don't think John Means is coming up and Matt Boyding the rotation and being their number 2 or 3. But I at least am interested to see if they bring him up in September what he can do, and maybe he's a guy that realizes some of this in 2026. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. Is there's a chance there for a guy who's had 2 Tommy John surgeries to come up and be at least a stabilizing force in the rotation, a bit of a veteran that you know this team might need, because who is the longest tenured pitcher in that rotation? Is it Tanner? I mean, Gavin, Tanner, and Logan all came up at the same time. Messick's a
Yeah,
rookie. Cantillo is young. Allen, like all those guys came up at the same time, so they don't really have a veteran in the rotation. So maybe from that aspect, it's the most intriguing now that I think about it.
yeah. It would be well. Obviously, Ben Lively's not available, but were Ben Lively healthy, he'd be the most he'd be the most veteran pitcher, and he wouldn't be the most tenured on the organization. I think that would be Tanner Bybee. In any event, John Means 88 to 92 with the fastball, and I've seen 92 once or twice. He's never been a power pitcher. That's not his game. His game is command and control with the secondaries primarily, and that's still there. It's still intact. You can see how this was an effective pitcher in the majors, and frankly, you can tell when a guy who was effective as a major leaguer still has it against minor leaguers. These games where he's come in and pitched, it's been an appreciable difference in quality, and you don't really look. necessarily for that in a rehab start. You just want to see people get through them healthy, firstly and foremost. So for him to still have it and still be effective, I'm very encouraged by that. It looks like he is recovering well from his Tommy John. He's still a ways away. I saw him pitch 45 pitches this past week, and he was pretty good. He went through 3 2/3. He struck out the last three guys he faced. One of those he'd tell you probably should have been hit 400 feet because he hung a changeup up to, I think it was Eggy Rosario, who is also a guy who has some major league experience, and he got a little lucky on a 3-2 count. The guy swung and missed. But yeah, I'm really encouraged by what I see, and I think your point about him being an important piece in the back end of the rotation, ideally, is well taken. I think that is true.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me too that this is a guy who's had two Tommy Johns, and you would think that like having one Tommy John, your command might suffer. That's usually the last thing to come back is your command. This is a guy who's had two Tommy Johns in a very short span too, because the first one
Almost back.
didn't, yeah, it didn't take, and he figured that out very quick that it didn't take. And for him to have the command that he's had so far, I know it's only high A, but I mean that's pretty surprising. But like you said, that's been who he is his entire career so far. I really am curious to see what they do because Columbus is out of town, I think, this week coming up.
Yeah, you feel that one.
Lansing, I guess, is as close to Lake County as Columbus is to Louisville. So I'm like, where's John Means going to pitch next? Because you're right, he's not ready for the major league. I think he needs at least one more rehab start. I don't know where they're going to send him without any affiliates being at home. That's very unusual for all of them to be on the road, by the way. Usually, one of them is usually at home, but that's also because the Guardians are at home, and I don't know if they're like working together on this, but it feels like because the affiliates are so close, they want the Guardians to be at home when the affiliates are on the road, so there's no takeaway in ticket sales, which I've heard
We've
before.
had we've had quite a few overlaps with
Okay,
Cleveland being home while Lake County's been home. This seems like more of a fluke. Is Lynchburg home? They wouldn't send him to Lynchburg. There's no.
that's
They
no.
wouldn't
I
do
mean,
that.
a
That's crazy.
yeah, you're not going to get any sort of there's no
No,
reason for him to pitch there.
no.
You're not going to glean anything, but yeah, and that's
Might as
also
well go
too
to
far.
Arizona.
Right, yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I guess probably makes the most sense to send him to Louisville. Let him go to AAA. Because I think Akron's in Richmond. That's too far.
Yeah,
And there's no point
Lake
doing a
County's
third.
in Lansing.
Yeah, and there's no point doing a third high A start if it's just the same distance. So
I
yeah, I
mean,
wouldn't be surprised to see him go to Louisville.
it would just be to meet the fantastic Jesse Goldberg Strassler in Lansing.
Yeah,
But that would be the only pool I would imagine.
yeah. That's. I mean, I don't think John Means is going to spend as much as it's fun to talk with Jesse about baseball and life.
Yeah.
I don't think John's going to Lansing to do that, but we'll see what happens there. I'm excited for that. Let's move on to another lefty, Josh Hartle. His debut for Akron, could have gone better. Wasn't great. Not really surprised, but it was a long overdue promotion, and it stinks that I didn't even have a plan to talk about this, but we can throw it in here real quick. It stinks that the rotation spot was open because Dylan DeLucia is in the IL with an elbow sprain, and that's a guy who also has previous Tommy John and his under his belt, unfortunately. But what was it, 31 straight innings and 5 starts for Josh Hartle without allowing an earned run, 28 strikeouts, and like 11 walks, I think. It's like, what took so long to promote him? It shouldn't have taken an injury. I guess it might have been innings, but like, and I guess they needed someone to backfill the innings in Lake County, and I mean, they could have, they just used Alonzo Richardson. He could have come there at any time. So I don't know what took so long for Josh Hartle to go up.
They found the innings in rather short order. I think that they were not particularly challenged in so doing. So maybe there was some particular coach that Josh was working well with. I noticed that Josh seemed to have picked up a little bit of velocity. He was topping out at 95, which was not something that I expected to see, especially at the beginning of the year. I would say he was topping at about 93 at that point in time, and I'd say that's the top end of his velo band now. So there's a little bit of something cooking there, and it doesn't make the fastball any less hittable. I do think he needs to be judicious with how he uses that pitch. Primarily, he's going to be trying to get people off the barrel with the cut fastball and trying to work back foot sliders in. He's very effective at doing it, and he's got a unique arm angle when he's approaching the hitters. I think that those things combined can make him a very effective pitcher as a mix-up. I think he has enough pitches to make it work as a starter. I think he's probably a back end starter unless something changes with his arsenal in a pretty major way between now and when he gets to the major leagues. There's also, because of the way he delivers the baseball and the possibility for stuff to increase, you'll hear me say this a lot because it's high A. The really good pitchers are in your are in your rotation, but there's a lot of bullpen potential for basically everybody at the level.
Mm.
A guy with his release point, to me, evokes an Andrew Miller type of release. He doesn't nowhere near the stuff of Andrew Miller. Andrew Miller
Right.
was always very stuffy, but it's something where if you look at so many lefties, like I've had to look at so many lefties this year because Lake County's full of them. It's a rotation full of lefties right now. You try to find out the things that make them unique. You try to identify what the organization might have seen in them, and you try to think about what that would look like in 3 to 5 years if it doesn't work out perfectly. So this guy, best case scenario, I think back end, middle of rotation, if there's a little bit of a pickup in velocity or he gets a little bit of a more interesting breaking ball, finds more consistency with the changeup. Those things could all happen. But I think like your median outcome's probably still like a multiple inning relief pitcher who's pretty effective. So with all that said, that's awfully harsh for a guy whose ERA at the level was like 2.5,
Right.
and he didn't seem particularly challenged by anyone not named West Michigan most times he went out. He had a little bit of bad luck with balls in play, and he's a guy who's going to get balls in play. He's not a big strikeout guy, but he's also not going to hurt himself too much with walks. So I think that circle him. He was probably already circled once people realized that he was going to be the bumper crop of the Spencer Horwitz trade. Do we call it the Spencer Horwitz trade now?
Hmm. Hey,
Him
Michael
and
Kennedy's still there. He's still
Now Michael
there.
Kennedy is still there, and he pitched today, or actually, excuse me, he pitched yesterday, and he was quite good, and he could
Yeah.
be quite good. I think Hartle's the more physical of the two, and if there is one that I would have pegged for a rotation, I think it would be Hartle, even though Kennedy's really pitchable. He really understands the crap.
I think what I'm most excited about with Hartle, like you were saying, he's got 95, and it's late in the season. This is the
Right.
longest he's ever pitched in a pro season. So for him not to get worn down, but adding velocity is I think really exciting because that speaks to like what more could be in the tank for him as he's growing and learning. And you're
And
right.
to
I mean,
clarify, just to emphasize the point, that was in the last start I saw of him, which was the last start at High A. So that was about 4 innings ago in his innings count. Yeah, it's right there.
yeah, and that's great. Like he wasn't doing that in like June. He wasn't doing it in May. He's doing it in August, and he's at the most innings he's ever pitched in his baseball life. So that's something like normally guys like that start to wear down by now, and he's picking it up. So he does have the size, but that's exciting to see. And you're right, the fastball for him is always going to be light unless he changes the shape of it a little bit. It's always going to be something that if he's Aaron Savali was a good example of this, right? He was a guy who didn't throw hard. He could throw 91, 94, but kind of like Hartle, who still needs to work on the rest of his arsenal, but he's got a deep range of pitches. He's got a deep arsenal. He's got to refine it. But Aaron Savali for years was an effective pitcher who was less durable than Josh Hartle, and he had a good command, like I think like Hartle does. Not necessarily a bat misser, but I mean, heck, Savali had good years where he kind of flashed as a three, and when he was healthy, and you got a top 100 prospect for him when you traded him. So I think there are a lot of good outcomes out there for Hartle. I hadn't considered the bullpen angle, and you're right. Obviously, I know you're saying that because you're saying like, well, that is maybe a floor for him. That's a possibility that he could be a major league arm in that way. And yeah, the fastball would look even better in the bullpen because he'd be in a shorter stint and the unique release point that would all help it play up. So I think major league still is in his future, but I think it's been a great development for him, especially considering this is a guy who came into 2024 as everyone thought he was going to be a first round pick, and things just really went off the rails with him trying to throw harder and chasing strikeouts, and that's just not his game. But now it's all coming. I mean, the strikeouts aren't there totally, but now it's all coming naturally for him, which is why he was such a great fit for Cleveland. Cleveland wanted him. They wanted Khal Steven, who I want to talk about too. Those are two guys they wanted to draft, but they got picked right in front of where they were going to take them, and now they're both here, and now they're both looking exciting, and that's what we have to focus on right now in
Yeah, the
Cleveland
exciting
baseball
stuff.
is getting back to the pitching factory, and Messick and Hartle and Steven could be all part of that.
Now, I don't want to jump into dangerous territory, but every time I've looked at Cal Steven, I've had to double take and make sure it wasn't Shane Bieber. So, like he looks like a bizarro cross between Shane Bieber and Kyle Manzardo in the face. So when you have that going on, and then like the posture's similar, and he's traded for Shane Bieber,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at his lines and you get excited because he's got really good strikeout stuff. He's pretty low on the walks. He's like less than 2 walks per nine. He is this his first outing
Yeah,
for Akron today? He was pretty good, pretty impressive. I think it was 2 hits in 3 innings, 2 strikeouts, no
yeah,
walks.
no
So
walks.
he's a guy that I'm excited to keep tabs on. From what I understand, a very traitsy fastball, which is something that Shane Bieber did not have ever.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty good as I guess a split finger sort of change up, something of that variety. But he's
Yeah,
been kind of like working into an arsenal that's more traditional slider curve. So I want to keep my eye on him. I haven't seen much of him pitch because I was, unfortunately, I'll say fortunately, actually, I was
yeah,
working
yeah.
a game today while he was pitching. But I'm very excited to see him, and I'm excited to watch all the guys that Cleveland circles back to in a really deep pitching class for them already.
Yeah, a couple of those guys did make their debut. Yoki's been up at Lynchburg, has been great, but he's
He
there.
sure is there.
He's there. Chase Mobley made his debut on Saturday. 10th round pick who got paid like a second round pick.
He's also there.
Also there. Braylon Doughty is also there in spirit.
Yeah,
He was the best part of that draft class among pitchers. I still think he will be, but anytime I hear, I'm literally telling you, I got the email from Lynchburg about the move, and I'm not kidding when I literally felt like almost like a shock to my system, almost like an out of body experience. Like I tweeted, my soul left my body when I saw Braylon Doughty injured list, and I was like, please, dear God, let this be an innings thing. And it's not an innings thing. It's a shoulder. You wanna wear the kid gloves with him, but man, he's been so fun to watch this year. The fastball command is there. The shape of the fastball's there. The poise and maturity for a 19-year-old is there. The curveball looks fun. It's just all there, and I really am excited to see him in Lake County in 2026. But I just hate. I was like, okay, if it's an injury, let it be a hamstring, let it be a knee, let it be even at
hands
the
arm.
worst a core muscle injury. Yes, anything but his right arm, and
Yeah.
unfortunately his
Now,
shoulder inflammation.
and so I think that shoulder inflammation is something that basically all pitchers deal with all the time. And when I see that as a reason for someone going on the injured list, my hope, and this is just hope, it's not based in anything else, is that this is their way of saying, I want to make a roster spot to make some other promotions. I don't know how much you need to do that at Lynchburg, but this is my fan fiction. And here's this guy who's already pitched 85 and a third innings this year. I think that for a debut season, that's a lot of innings, and I would have liked to have seen him close out to like 100. But this is a 19-year-old kid. I'm gonna try and take that tack towards it and hope that by spring training this is all a moot point. But yeah, the traits are very exciting. The incredible. I pulled up Fangraphs just to double check the innings count, but his 368 BABIP, and for him to be still like managing an ERA and having a FIP well under 3 for the year is really impressive. The command is something that no one has at low A, and he has a really advanced feel for throwing strikes. So I'm very excited to see what the next steps look for him. And you're right, the stuff is good. The complete picture as a package is very advanced. I think you mentioned on Friday that he reminded you in the way that you like kind of follow him as Tristan McKenzie
Mm-hmm.
when he was a younger pitcher coming through the minors before the shoulder whatever happened he like fell apart. He was
Mm-hmm.
like in the rotisserie chicken, like he was like his shoulders just disintegrated for a year and a half. It was strange. So whatever happened with him, the shoulder inflammation doesn't sound as severe, but I certainly understand anytime anyone hurts their arm and job as pitcher, you worry. But hopefully, the encouraging parts of the season that we can take out, and it was a very encouraging season for Doughty. He's going to be someone that is really well regarded in the system in a very short period of time, as long as he's healthy.
While you're on Fangraphs, did you also notice how many career wins Braylon Doughty has?
That's zero.
So he must not
That's
be any
tough.
good, right?
Yeah, that's right. And much like yeah, basically everyone in Lake County's rotation carries. Jackson Humphreys got his first win on I want to say July 28th. It was very recent, and it was yeah. A lot of people have not worked 5 innings in most of their starts. Doughty's done it a number of times, but usually working with no offensive support. Lynchburg's offense is one best enjoyed from afar.
Yeah, it's been more exciting lately. I will
Yes.
say they've gotten more fun. That'll be something to kind of talk about at the end of the season. We can do that, or I can have Jason Prill on from Lynchburg. We can talk about that because there have been some names there. I will say,
Yeah. Yes, there have been
some
names,
there
and
have
now there
been
are more
names.
names.
There are more names. They've been exciting, and the majority of those names will be in Lake County next year, Mike. So you want to get to know them as soon as possible. You won't be able to enjoy them from afar. You'll have to watch them from up front, and you'll have to deal with it.
Look, I'm ready for Riley Nelson. I thought he should have been here
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
I'm watching, and I do not disparage Mike Collado, and I do not disparage Kevin Rivas, who are better at baseball than I will ever be at anything ever. But
I
they,
don't know if that's
I
true.
would,
I don't know if that's
I
true.
would like to, I would like to have seen a different first baseman, please.
Because you
I did
lost the
see,
really good one. You
yes,
lost. Yeah, we can talk about him next. You lost the really good one in Ralphy Velazquez, and you know what? It was time. That man was on a tear. I can't go. I didn't look it up for the show, but I kept referencing July 1st on. But from July 1st on, the man had an OPS over 900 or 1,000, and the strikeout rate was in the low teens. The walk rate was in the mid teens. Like he just turned it on. Like he just all of a sudden was like, oh yeah, I am a first round pick, it's not to say he was doing badly before. There were some factors that were not working out there. Like he was hitting a lot of balls hard that weren't going his way, and he acknowledged that early on, and the organization did. And for like I've said this before on this show and other shows. For a 19-year-old, he only just turned 20 a few weeks ago. For a 19-year-old to recognize in high A that, hey, I'm doing okay, I'm hitting the ball hard, I feel good about my process, things will come. Because a 19-year-old first-round pick, I want to hit home runs, I want results, I want to look good, I want to play good, I want to feel good. And probably the first time in his baseball life that he's ever struggled. This is what baseball does. And for him to have that maturity about it, it says a lot. And then for him to come out in July 1st from until now and just be an absolute heater. I mean, the town of Reading has not recovered from Hurricane Ralphie. Like he went out there and just devastated. Now, to be fair, Reading is the
it's
best
a
hitters
hitter's park.
park. It's the best hitters park east of the Mississippi. It is a bandbox and it plays small. And the Double A pitching rotation for the Phillies right now is not a whole lot to write home about. But that doesn't take away from the fact the man was hitting like 380-foot left center bombs out there. Like
Yeah.
those are still
The
big
exit
boy hits.
velocities, like the exit velocities I heard were for the record, I see the Hawkeye things when I'm doing my job at Lake County. I had never seen Ralphie hit something harder than 107. I'm sure it had happened, and it probably happened on a ground ball because those are usually hit harder. But the numbers I was hearing for his Reading home runs, 110, 117.
114, yeah.
Yeah, like these were not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. And he is very much capable of doing that when his swing's right, and it's been right for about 2 months at this point. We thought that he was going to get promoted about 3 weeks before he did get promoted, and I was glad that they kept him around because the 3 weeks where we thought he was going to get promoted, he was special. His
Mm-hmm.
approach was almost perfect. It was readily identifying what he could damage, taking what he couldn't in two strike situations instead of taking what he couldn't, he'd spoil what he couldn't. Very impressive. I really do think that that's a special hitter, and it makes all the sense in the world when you identify a special hitter to take that guy and bring him away from a very demanding defensive position and catcher. So I think that organizationally that's a sensible move, especially as he's kind of grown as a hitter and you haven't had to worry about limiting him and not challenging him offensively because he needs the work defensively that he almost certainly would as a catcher.
Yeah, the organization last year tried to like say, well, we don't want to say that catching's dead for him. Like we want to keep
It's
it alive. And they referenced like David Fry, and I was like, okay, look, I could see that. Like he could play some first,
Yeah.
he could play some left. Maybe he catches once a week or whatever. He has not caught since he was drafted, except for like a couple games in Arizona in 2023. I would say at this point he is a first baseman slash left fielder. I will say this though, I don't know what they're gonna do between Kefis, Manzardo, and Ralphie, but Ralphie's a good first baseman.
Than the current.
Oh yeah, but Ralphie's. If you want to talk in terms of defense, if you want to just do the defensive pecking order at first base, I know first base defense isn't sexy, nor should it be, even though Carlos Santana makes it fun most times. It's C.J. Kefis, it's Ralphy Velazquez, and it's Khal Manzardo. Khal Manzardo, unfortunately to me, is a DH. Like he is literally just a DH. Ralphie's not a bad defender. He could play first base. He's athletic.
He's a surprising left fielder. I
Yes.
did not like. I don't think he's going to maintain his range as he adds weight to his frame, but he's quicker than you think, and he's got surprising athleticism. There were a couple plays that he made in the playoffs last year where he was making leaping plays at the wall. I'm like, who is this guy?
He robbed a home run last year.
Right. This happened right before my eyes. It was like his seventh game doing left field at all. It was sensational. Now they haven't done a ton of that with him, but there have been a lot of people coming through the outfield in Lake County, and they didn't have a need to plug someone in there. They obviously, as I might have indicated, they don't have any other people to play first base right now. So he was playing a lot of first base. But like with Kefis, going up the ladder, if there is someone blocking first base, I feel comfortable with him in the outfield, and I think the organization does too.
Yeah, I hope they get him more reps out there, especially because by the time he reaches the majors, I don't think Stephen Kwan will be with Cleveland one way or the other. So left field is something that could be open for him or C.J. Kefis, or one of them can play first base, because like I said, Khal Manzardo...
Yeah, Manzardo cannot.
Yeah, he's going to be a DH. He is. There's two names I want to throw out there when we wrap this up. So let's start with George. Actually, there's three if we include the the unofficial trivia question.
Let's do
George Valera, man. You know what? I say screw it. Let's just see what he can do. Like
what's the worst that could happen, right? Look at a bunch of called third strikes. That'd be wild, right?
He is on a tear. I mean, would you rather watch him play? I guess in the interest of having something watchable or something to look forward to. I mean, like you said, the Guardians aren't out of the playoff race, but they are quickly digging themselves the hole to put on the gravestone.
Yeah, they're going to need reasons.
I would like to see George Valera at least finally get called to the majors, because he's worked so darn hard, and I hate the injuries that have happened to him, because I do think he's a talented player. Do I think what he's doing at AAA is going to sustain at the major league level? Probably not. Like he's been on a heater, he had the cycle, and he's been pretty good, and but at least let's see it. Like I don't need to see Nolan Jones anymore.
No.
They can't take away the bats from C.J. Kefis, but like let's just see what Valera can do. And if you decide in the offseason, you know what, we've got other 40-man things, then you trade him or you move on. But let's just, like they did that with Will Benson, right? Will Benson played a little bit in September in 2022. In the offseason, they traded for your favorite player, Stephen Hagers.
Justin Boyd.
And Justin Boyd, that's right. They traded Will Benson for two of your favorite players.
Two of my favorite players ever.
So why not let Valera get a few weeks in the majors, see what's up, and then if you get an offer in spring training and you have other options, then you can bring Steve Hasher out of retirement again and trade for him or something.
It's fully in favor of giving Valera a crack at it. I think he deserves it.
Yeah, I do too. And I like you said, what's the worst that could happen? I didn't plan for this name to come up, but because I just thought about it with the pitching thing, and I've had people ask me about it, and this is a name you and I have talked about before, Yorman Gomez.
Yeah.
This is going to sound crazy, but just stay with me here. Because the Guardians have not had a lot of international pitching prospects that come through their system, we've seen a lot of them, and they're guys. They come, they play, and they seem like nice kids, and they move on after a couple years because they aren't it. Yorman Gomez is the best international pitching prospect the Guardians have had since Danny Salazar.
Yes, and embarrassingly for me, I was going to say Genmar Gomez, who predates Danny Salazar and is not better than Danny Salazar. Was a good pitcher. But
Boy, Jimmer Gomez. Jeez, that's it. Yeah.
yes, Yorman Gomez, he has juice. He's got a good fastball. I don't necessarily love the shape. I think it's a little hittable. He struggles to put people away sometimes, and efficiency is going to be a concern, like it is for a lot of young pitchers. But I think he has two breaking pitches, one of which is actually good, and the other one might become
Show
good
me.
over time, that curveball. And I think his changeup is serviceable. I think there's a pitcher in there. I do. I think of the starting pitching prospects, I'd have him as my third or fourth in the organization.
I told Lamole. I said I think this guy reminds me of Xavier Curry, because Xavier Curry had a decent
Yes.
ride in the fastball, but it was hittable. The velocity was just okay. I think you were the first one to tell me that Yorman Gomez saw a velo bump this year, because before he was like 91, 93. Now he's like 92, 94, topping out at 96 at times.
I've
I
seen him up
think.
to 98, but it was like once or
Oh,
twice.
well, still,
I
it's in
don't
there.
think it's sustainable. The only
Yeah,
other guy with a similar number in the organization this year is Dylan DeLucia.
yeah. Both, ironically enough, 6 feet tall, not very big guys. Um, but like Gomez reminds me a lot of Curry. Obviously, he's got more velo. We just talked about that. But the fastball shape is like, it's okay. There's some carry to it. There's some fringy to good secondaries. Curry didn't always hold his stuff late in the games. Gomez has been the same way. So I think that maybe the end game here with Gomez is he's a good reliever. But I think, like Kajuma, that the 98 becomes more believable as a reliever, doesn't it? And then
But yeah,
you only
you're talking
need
more
one of
like a
those.
Carlos Vargas situation at that point.
Yeah, I mean, because Carlos Vargas also had a hard fastball that was very hittable. And I want to say Gomez has better control than. That's
He
okay. So
does. He does. Vargas really struggled with his control.
yeah, so
Still
maybe
does.
maybe that's the better, not comp, but like, I mean, once upon a time I was very high on Carlos Vargas, and I thought
Many
he
were.
was a future closer. So maybe Gomez is the best international pitching prospect since him, but the last successful international one they've had on the major league roster that they developed on their own was Salazar. So I could see a reliever in Gomez, though. The fastball plays up. You only need one secondary for the most part. You just need a usable third one, and the control becomes a little bit less of a factor. But he's someone to at least pay attention to right now. I'm excited, and Mike, he's Rule 5 eligible at the end of the year.
Yeah,
That's
you're
somebody
gonna
I would not take lightly in terms of you're going to have to protect him if you want
you're
to
gonna
keep
have to
him.
protect him. Like for
I think
sure, you're
so.
gonna have to protect him. If you wanted to see the pathway, you make him a two-pitch pitcher and you stick him in the bullpen. Rule 5, easy.
Keep
Like,
starting him though until he proves that he can't. Like,
yeah, I'm saying if I
wear
needed
it
to
out.
stash him on a roster, that's my roster utilization
Well, yeah,
as a major league organization.
I could see it. I could see someone. Do you think the Colorado Rockies would say no to him? The Chicago White Sox, the Washington Nationals, the Florida Marlins, I'm sure would love to get their hands on him. The
Absolutely.
Florida. Well,
There's plenty of
if they still
risk.
existed, it's the Miami Marlins. I said Florida Marlins. The Florida Marlins don't exist. The Miami Marlins exist. The Florida Marlins, I don't know what they're doing. They're still looking at their two championship banners, one of which came against Cleveland.
Good times are here to stay, folks.
All right. Well, on that note, one of the years the Florida Marlins did win a World Series championship was the year that the last player on the Cleveland baseball team wore 00. Any last guesses? I finally told you on Friday, but because we were
No, you
talking about a
did.
lot of things on
You
Friday,
did. It's gone. I'd totally forgotten.
it's been a long weekend. I know it's been a good weekend. Not of Guardians baseball, but lots of baseball and lots of conversation. So it's fair that it gets lost. And you've got more important things in your brain than I do. Let me tell you, because I for some reason this happened in '03, and here it is, and I'm like, yep, I remember this guy. He was here for a whole year, through a lot, but he was not really memorable in terms of results. It was the infamous Rick White.
White. Yeah, there it
Rick
is.
White.
Yeah, it's
00.
never going to stick. I'm going to get him confused with Alex White. And
Stick
that's gonna
with
be
Rick.
it.
Stick with Rick. So you got to use like a, what is that? Not alliteration. What is that? Like some kind of homonym?
Yeah, I should know my literary devices, but for the moment, we're just going to say that would work.
Pneumonic
Yeah,
device.
that's
It's a pneumonic
devices.
device.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
I graduated college, I swear.
Yeah, I theoretically have a law degree.
Yeah. Theoretically. Yeah, so Rick White, there you go. That's your useless fact for the day that you can forget. Because if you have more important things to do than I do, you can forget that. But unfortunately, those are things that stick in my brain. So if you're ever wondering what I'm doing at like 1 o'clock on a Monday and you're listening to this, like, I wonder what Justin's thinking about. I'm thinking about Rick White and uh, David DeLucci
David DeLucci.
and Jason Michaels and
Jody Garrett, what could have
Jody
been.
Garrett and Billy Traber and Brian. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So yeah, if you're ever wondering, that's what I'm doing. You don't have to wonder. It's not really a mystery. Mike, appreciate you being on. This is a lot of fun. We should do this again soon. I've missed doing these with you. I've missed doing these all year in general, just because again, time
Daily
commitments.
podcast, it's a lot of commitment.
Yeah, and I've just been working on other parts of myself this year. So, but this was extremely enjoyable for me, Mike. I hope it was at least as half satisfying for you. But I had lots of fun, and I hope everybody listening had lots of fun. And if Mike wants to come back, you're always welcome. And if we have something to talk about, I'm sure we will, and we'll have a lot of fun doing it. And I hope you had a lot of fun listening. And please watch Guardians baseball for the last couple weeks. Pay attention to the minors.
Look for the silver linings, folks. Watch Nick Enright.
Yeah. We'll start looking for 2026 because as of right now, hey, everyone's got a clean slate as of November 1st of 2025. So
Thank you, Justin. It's always a pleasure to be on.
All right. See you, Mike. See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Take it easy.